I don't know who your mother is. Mine wears combat boots and I know she's probably watching. I was going to bring a little Hot Wheel car and stand here and tell you all I got my mother a car for her Mother's Day present, and then I was going to show you. But I thought, nah, that's too hokey. But I told you anyway. All right, I have a cold. You're all going to have to deal with it. I've had it all week, and I am tired of all this getting sick stuff. I hope you are too. What's up? Okay, I got a couple things I want to say before we start. Start praying that Jim can get a vehicle, Jim Shelton, so he can come back and play bass. We're trying to get him back here. He's in Springfield. We need to get Jim playing bass, right? Yes, we need Jim playing bass. Jim, if you're listening, we need you playing bass. The other thing is, and he doesn't know I'm going to say this, Seth, we're going to make him start preaching at least once in a while. That boy needs to be preaching. We can't waste that. So push him to do that at least once a month or every other month, whatever he can produce. And we'll get him trained up and maybe put him into ministry like his father is. But listen, we've already discussed it. He's game. I just got to get him up here. So he's got to give me a time. Harass him about it. And if you bail, I know where you work. So, and I have your number. And yes, happy Mother's Day. I get it. It's Mother's Day, and I know there's people skipping. Jim Goad and his wife, their son came to town, so they're hanging out. Let's see. Dawn is in Alaska, and she keeps sending me pictures of the mountains, which I've never been to Alaska. My goodness, the mountains are beautiful. And she's up there helping a friend. Pray for her. She's got a lot on her table right now and all that she's having to deal with. What else is there? Is there anything else? By the way, the band sounded great, man. Gosh. I mean, we're getting some quality, man. And Steve's doing a little jamming. I'm still trying to get some real cool instrumentals up there. What else? Let me see. Oh, yeah, we're remodeling. We're going to do this. I'm going to drag you if I have to. We're doing this. So we laid down the tape, Alan and I did, to see where the wall would run out, where we're going to put the sound booth is over there. And the ladies are still working on, Kelly and Christina working on getting the windows redone. That's the big thing we're doing. Family Feast last week was fabulous. I love doing that again. Things are good for me. I don't know about you all, but I'm pretty pumped. I really am. Funny enough, though, we're going back into Nehemiah, and we're going to be talking strategies of leadership, and it doesn't line up with Mother's Day at all. But if you listen to what I'm telling you today, what I'm going to show you today, and Alan, did we get it put online, the 21 leadership qualities from okay. We're going to put this online, so don't panic. You're going to be able to go online and download it and take it. It's by Donald Campbell. He identified 21 principles of effective leadership that Nehemiah demonstrated. Now, I want you to understand, everybody to some degree is in a leadership role somewhere in their life. And again, I'm going to try not to be too grotesque up here. So all of these principles, even though some of them are actually military principles or strategies, they apply in life. It's fascinating to me. So we're going to look at Nehemiah chapter 6. I didn't tell you, Alan, it's going to be chapter 6. We're only going to go down to verse 14. I'm going to break it into two categories. But that's where we're going to be. If you're wise, heavy emphasis, if you are wise, you will listen to this and you will actually sit down and start looking at your life and the situations in your life and start working on properly dealing with your enemies. You will learn from this guy how to navigate life's struggles to get accomplished the things you want to get accomplished. It really is true. This is not religion. This is the brilliance of God teaching us how to navigate life, especially our enemies. And how many of you have enemies? Everybody's got somebody or something that is an issue in their life. But let me give you this. You need to understand this and take time to really go ponder this and think about it. Satan is absolutely building a kingdom of his own. Most people think that Satan is concerned with them. He doesn't. You probably in your whole lifetime will never run into him. He doesn't have time for you, for one thing. Now, you will run into some of those that work for him, which are the fallen angels that work with him. But their goal is to build his kingdom. That's his goal. And he will use everybody and anybody, every government and any government to accomplish that goal. And that goal of that kingdom is to eradicate everything God ever said. That's the goal. His goal is to establish a world kingdom where he is the focal point and everything that God has given you to bless you is removed from you. That's his goal. You need to understand that is the direction your world is going. You need to just simply understand that. The other side of the fence is, though, is Jesus has a kingdom that he has established, and he is also building, and he will bring it to completion, and the day will come where Satan and all those that have chosen to go in his direction will end up permanently separated for all of eternity from God and us. Their choice, not God's. Their choice. So you're either a person by nature who is working to build the kingdom of Christ, or you are living your life in such a way that you are helping Satan establish his. And you know when you are thinking and acting sinfully. You know, and sin is simple. It's missing the mark. When you know when you are doing things that are contrary to wisdom, contrary to truth, contrary to life, destructive instead of constructive, selfish instead of serving. You know this. So a person who's wise is going to develop their life strategies out where they're doing things that are conducive. It works. It just so works. I talked to just a small example. I knew a very, very successful man, and I'm glad I got to know him. And this guy, I asked him one day, if I were to take all your money from you, what would you do? And he smiled at me. He said, I'd just make it again. Now, he wasn't kidding. He knows that even if and it really is true, you can take away from an individual something, but if they have principles that they live by, strategies and ways to deal with life, those type of people can turn right around and do it again because they follow the rules that produce success. There are rules that literally produce success. It's a fact. That's why I want to give you some military stuff. Because the problem that people have, it's in our nature, is to just live life. We just live. And we look for every opportunity to have the most fun we can have, to eat the most food we can eat. I mean, we don't think in terms of, wait a minute. If I were to do this, at this point in time, I will have everything I truly want. I'm telling you, this guy that I'm telling you about, he came to me we were talking one day, and I said, so, Fred, what are my odds of winning the lottery? He laughed at me and he said, I'll tell you what. How much do you want to spend playing the lottery? He said, you give me that money, and I promise you by the time you're 50 years old, you will be a wealthy man. I promise you. Now think about that. It's true. If you would have started at an early age in your life thinking correctly instead of just trying to feed yourself and party and have a good time, you would be well on your way to being successful. You know how Bill Gates got to be where he is? And I know some people don't like Bill Gates. I don't care for him as a person. But you've got to understand that man became successful. You know what he did that none of you have probably ever done? He won awards every single year for reading the most books at the library. That man would go sit in the library and read and read and read. It is a proven fact that when you read, you increase your word comprehension, which increases your ability to do things more effectively. Word comprehension is everything. How many of you do that? You know what most of us do? We sit and stare at a TV screen or play video games or stare at our phone. While we're doing that, there are people out there in your world this very day who are developing and training and strategizing to put their lives right where they want them to be. You can do the same exact thing. Same thing. The problem is most of us think we can't. Most of us cannot imagine ourselves being successful. As a matter of fact, a lot of us have a psychological structure that when we do start to succeed, we will start to break it because in our psyche, we are convinced it could never happen for me. I could never be that person. Yeah. So that was more of the sermon than you were going to get. I'm going to give you some stuff, and you can go get this offline anytime you want. It's Donald Campbell did this, and he's not the only one that has done this. I think it was Wiersbe had 12. But listen to what he says. He saw in the book of Nehemiah this. Nehemiah established a reasonable and an obtainable goal. He had a sense of mission. He was willing to get involved. He rearranged his priorities in order to accomplish his goal. He patiently waited for God's timing. He showed respect to his superiors. He prayed at critical times. He made his request with tact and graciousness. He was well prepared and thought of his needs in advance. He had plans. He investigated the situations, meaning he would go survey what it is that he was getting ready to accomplish or try to accomplish, to know what he needed to deal with, what he needed to deal with first. He did all of this, and the list will be put online. You need to look at it, and then you need to. I promise you, if you start using this kind of thinking in your decision-making processes, your life will change. I guarantee it. I can bet my life on it. It will change if you do this. That's just out of the book of Nehemiah. I was looking at military strategies, and I was going to give you examples. I can give you one. During World War II, one of the strategies was to distribute matchboxes in Germany, and they would drop them from planes. So the soldiers would find the matchboxes and the people would find the matchboxes, but the goal was the soldiers. In these matchboxes, I can't talk now. In these matchboxes were instructions on how to fake illnesses effectively. So the German soldiers, you don't really want to be on the battleground, and if you're tired, you'd like to go get some R&R. So they were distributing these matchboxes so the German soldiers would go, okay, I can act like I'm sick, get sick leave, and get off the battlefield for a while. Well, the German leadership realized that that's what they were doing, so they tried to deal with it. It ended up causing conflict between the leadership and the soldiers even more so. So it was very effective in causing them to have disruptions. Now think about it. Who would have ever thought of that? Somebody who sits and does strategy. Somebody who sits and thinks, how am I going to deal with my enemy to diminish their ability to fight me effectively? Now, you have a permanent enemy. It's not people, they're a byproduct. Your permanent enemy is Satan. He hates everything you're going to do in your life that's going to be good. If things are going well in some cases, it can be him using it to distract you from what you really should be doing. That happens also. You can become very successful And it could be Satan just feeding you down the line just to keep you from doing what you actually should do. It really happens. But you've got to pay attention. You're in a continual fight. Your enemy uses tactics. Let me give you some. I love Sun Tzu. How many of you have read The Art of War? It's a wonderful book. And if you don't know his history, he was alive way back. I mean, way back, thousands of years. Sun Tzu, I'm going to run out of time today. Sun Tzu defended, he had a small kingdom he was a part of. They were being assaulted by a massive kingdom. Somebody that had more men, more weaponry, the ability to really take them out. Sun Tzu went to his warlord or his leader and told him that he could build him an army that could defend their province. And his leader was like, how are you going to do this? What Sun Tzu did that was interesting is he said, get your concubines. And he had them bring the concubines in. Now, these women were trained to do one thing, and that was to make the king happy. You know what I'm talking about. That was their job. That's what they were trained to do. He hands two of the girls, he hands one a sword and hands another one the sword, and he says, fight. And they just giggle. He says to them again, do you understand the command I just gave you? You were to fight. And they didn't do it. He walks up, takes the swords from them, cuts the heads off of both of them, hands the swords to two other girls and says, now fight. And they started fighting. He was making a valid point. And his point is if the instruction is clear, then you've done what you need to do as a leader. Your instruction's clear. If your instruction isn't clear, then you failed. You failed. He was making the point, I can lead your army because I will make sure they understand exactly what I'm telling them to do. Now catch these things, he said. Appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. That is brilliant, by the way. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. You will lose everyone. If you don't know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you will lose every single battle. He's absolutely right in what he just said. This is life principles. This isn't just military. This is life principle. It's being used on you all the time by your own government, just so you know. They don't just sit in Washington, D.C. and go, well, guys, what do we want to do today? They have mass numbers of people that sit and calculate continually how they are going to deal with each and every nation on the planet, each and every leader on the planet, and you also. That's how you have to live. That's how life works. I'll give you more. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when we are able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must appear inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When we are far away, we must make him believe we are near. He did this stuff. He managed to outmaneuver this other guy's armies all the time. He had so many spy networks going all around the area that he knew every town and what was going on in that town, how many troops were in each one of those towns, and he would deliberately draw his enemy towards him, and while the guy was pursuing him, he was sending other guys back to the cities to destroy the cities. It was brilliant what this guy was doing. He didn't have the same amount of power that this guy did, but this guy didn't know what to do with him, didn't know how to stop him. You ought to read his stuff. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. Isn't that great? He's saying, I don't quit. If I'm in a bad situation, I will look for the opportunity. You know who else did that? I've given you this before. It was Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, one of the battles, and I think it was Gagamil or something like that. I can't ever say it right anyway. They were in a battle where they were totally outnumbered. There's no way they could win. His father's main general, who now worked for him, was telling him, we need to run. We need to run as fast as we can and get out of here. Here's what happened. Alexander that night went to his tent, and it was written about him that he had gone to sleep. He went into his tent, and they saw his light go out, and he went to sleep. Now think about that. The next day, they engaged an enemy that far outnumbered them. Go read the story about it. It's amazing. He brilliantly took all of his best men, put them on one side, and they were a weak defense. The enemy came at that, of course, because I'm going to go after your weakness. Went after it. They fought fiercely. While they did that, this is so good. While they did that, he, on his cavalry, starts riding off to the other side. And I've told you this before, I think. Starts riding to the other side very slowly. Behind his cavalry, he's got the guys with the slings and the short spears. So they're walking along with the horses too, and they're moving off to the side. The king, which was, I believe, Xerxes, the king thought that Alexander was getting ready to run. So he shifted half of, because he couldn't move this army. They're over here fighting like the Dickens. So he shifts half of his army to follow. So here goes this king's army moving along with Alexander and his guys. Guess where the king sits? Right at the back in the center. Right at the back in the center. He has just opened up a wide gap down the center of his forces. Alexander turns his horses rapidly and charges towards that middle. While he's doing that, the guys that were following him, they're getting nailed with spears and rocks, so they're disorganized now. He stopped them temporarily. He rode right up that middle and rode straight towards that king. Guess what the king did? He ran. His own people killed him later. What I'm telling you is that life, when you're up against it, you have to think in terms of commitment. You have to think in terms of strategy. You have to focus yourself. You cannot get through this life any other way. The people that struggle the most are the people that don't take the time to think. They just react emotionally. And that'll destroy you every time. Every time. When I was growing up as a kid, I told Chris this once even. When I was growing up as a kid, when it came to fighting, the guys that I wasn't afraid of them were the guys standing there going, oh, come on, man, we're going to fight. And I'm like, I've got this one. It was the guys that would stand there and look at you and say, okay, let's go. And it's like, oh, no, that guy is way too comfortable. That guy's going to beat me. Because why? He knew how to fight. He had trained him. He wasn't emotionally responding to me. It was like, okay, here's the situation. Here's what we're going to do. That's how you think. I want to give you some more. And we're actually going to get into Nehemiah, and we'll move through it quick when I get there. There's strategies that are called defensive strategies. You have economy strategies, and I'm not going to read them. You can go look at them. I'll give you some of them. There's offensive strategies, right? There are, in your offensive strategies, let me give you one. There's one that's called coercion. It's compelling the enemy to involuntarily behave in a certain way by targeting the leadership, national communications, or political economic centers. You have what's called dissipation, which is achieving strategic paralysis by targeting political leadership, command and control, strategic weapons, and critical economic nods. You have deception, a strategy that seeks to deceive, trick, or fool the enemy and create a false perception in a way that can be leveraged for a military advantage. You have denial, a strategy that seeks to destroy the enemy's ability to wage war. You have distraction, an attack by some of the force on one or two flanks, drawing up to a strong frontal attack by the rest of the force. You have exhaustion. These are military, this is what you're taught if you're going to be an officer. Exhaustion, a strategy that seeks to erode the will or the resources of a country. You have the F-E-I-N-T, feint, I don't know how to say that. A maneuver designed to distract or mislead, done by giving the impression that a certain maneuver will take place while in fact another or even none at all. You have persisting strategy, a strategy that seeks to destroy the means by which the enemy sustains himself. You have punishment. It's actually a strategy, punishment strategy, a strategy that seeks to push a society beyond its economic and psychological breaking point. You have raiding, which is attack with the purpose of removing the enemy's supplies or provisions. Now, I'm only giving you some. There's a mass number of them. You need to understand that if Satan is building a kingdom and you see nations using these strategies to build their kingdoms, I guarantee you Satan uses these type of strategies on you. I guarantee it. And you have to be smart enough to know how to counteract the strategies that Satan is using to destroy your life or derail you from doing what he's called you to do. You have to. Or you're just going to make my job even harder. All right. Write this down. We're going to Nehemiah 6. Nehemiah 6, 1 through 4, distraction. Nehemiah 6, 5 through 9, discredit. The idea is to discredit the leadership so the people will not follow. Nehemiah 6, 10 through 14, deceive. Let's go, Alan. I know. Go ahead and take me there, Alan. Now, when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem, the Arab, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had built the wall and that there was no breach left in it. Now, don't miss this. They are having success at what they're doing. The enemies don't like it, and they've noticed it. Satan does the same thing to you. He comes off that wall, and he says to his guys, you see that family right over there? They're starting to move in a right direction, and I can't have that because they will be effective at resisting some other things I've got going on. So you go stop them. So look, they hadn't put the doors on the gate yet, but the walls are up. Next. Sanballat and Geshem sent to me saying, come and let us meet together at Hakapharim, I guess, in the plain of, oh no. That's what it says. But they intended to do me harm. And I sent messengers to them saying, I am doing a great work. I'm busy right now. I'm focused on one thing. I don't have time for you guys. I know your motives. I know your intentions. It's not for good. I'm busy right now. I got to get these gate doors up. See it? Focused. I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? And they sent to me 4 times in this way, and I answered them in the same manner. The persistence to distract you. Don't forget that. That's how it works. Your enemies, be them people or be it Satan, will persistently come at you to distract you from moving in the direction you need to be going, to stop the work that's the work that needs to be done. He does it to churches all the time. It never stops. So now you have, so that's your, what you want to call, that's your distraction. The goal is to distract him away from his work. Okay? Now, verses 5 to 9 is discredit. Okay, so they couldn't distract him from his work. So now what they have to do is convince the people in the city that he's a fraud. Now that'll happen to you also. That's why your character always needs to be something you focus on so people cannot bring into question who you are, or you will discredit yourself not meaning to. It happens. In the same way, Sanballat for the 5th time sent his servant to me with an open letter. You know why it's an open letter? Because all the other letters were sealed to where only Sanballat knew what was in the letter and Nehemiah knew what was in the letter. This is an open letter. Guess who knows what's in the letter now? All the people. It's an open letter. And look what it says. It is reported among the nations, and Geshem also says it, that you and the Jews intend to rebel. That is why you are building the wall. And according to these reports, you wish to become their king. Tell me that didn't cause him a problem. And if his character was not such that the people would have responded with, no, I know Nehemiah, and I've seen how Nehemiah has led us, this can't be true. But the goal here is to get the people to think, wait a minute, this jerk, he's building this thing for himself. I've been in churches where the pastors were building the church for themselves. And the people were right to have an issue with him. I've seen it. Mistake. You are building this church not for yourself. This is not about you. This is not about me. This is about the kingdom of Christ. And let me say this in this. You need to think in terms that our number one goal is that when we die, there are people to step in here and run this church still after we're going to keep doing the mission of building the kingdom of Christ. You need to be living your lives for somebody else to step into your shoes. If you're not, then you're living it for yourself. It's going to end up leaving you high and dry. It's not going to be good. I know too many pastors, and my dad would attest to this, where the ministry was built all around him. When my dad resigned from the ministry, a church of hundreds of people fell apart and no longer exists. The school's still going, Living Word Christian School up there in St. Peter's. They started a school that's an accredited school. You can pull it up online. But because the people were not building the kingdom of Christ, they were building their own kingdom and following a man. Instead of building that kingdom and being willing to die for the next group to come in and take over, we need to do that here. He is focused on what he's doing, which is building that city back. That city is the city of God. It's Jerusalem. That city mattered much to God and to the people of God. He now has his enemies trying to discredit him and bring down his reputation. I love what he says. And you have also set up prophets to proclaim covering concerning you in Jerusalem, meaning you even got guys going around saying God's behind it. There is a king in Judah, and now the king will hear of these reports. So now come and let us take counsel together. Do we have your attention now, Nehemiah? You better come talk to us, because now we've put you in a position where you have to defend your character. Don't ever buy into that trap. If you are a person of good character and somebody's accusing you, let me give you this. There are approximately 3 females who have been going around saying that I don't like women. Isn't that interesting? Now, the reason why they're saying that is because I would not let them interfere with the ministry. That's why they're saying it, right? Now, I find that fascinating. Any of you females here think I hate women? I've been married 40 years in July. I don't think I hate women. Now, I don't like women that try to come in and disrupt a ministry because they want it to be about them, but I feel the same way about men. If you're here for you and you are demanding that this church cater itself to you, you are a problem. Now, I'm telling you, I've had this happen. This isn't the first time I've been assaulted where somebody is trying to literally derail the ministry because they want it to go the way they want it to go instead of the way God is taking it. That's why you surround yourself with good elders who are all on the same page, going after the same goal. Anytime somebody shows up and tries to derail a ministry and the way it's going, that is an act of Satan to disrupt. You all need to know that. Has nothing to do with me disliking people or anything like that. I'm just telling you, I know when Satan's using a person. It happens in your own lives. As a matter of fact, you should be wise enough not to listen to anybody's outside statement about anybody. You should go to that individual that has been accused and ask them yourself, are you this person? Did you actually do this? Okay, so then I sent him saying, no such thing as you say has been done, for you are inventing them out of your own mind. You're making this stuff up. You're believing it now even because you want to believe it. That happens. For they all wanted to frighten us. To frighten. The goal is to discourage them doing the work. Don't think that Satan doesn't do that here. He absolutely does that here. He will do everything he can to convince you to quit. He will. And I love what Jim Goad says. He says, Dan, I'm coming here until the doors are locked and I can't get in. That's the way everybody should think. If you have honestly been called by God to be a part of this church, then you be a part of this church and you step in. You step in and you commit to it. You have to, or the walls will never get built. We're building a wall. That was funny, I thought. Look, you're trying to frighten us, thinking their hands will drop from the work and it will not be done. But now, God, strengthen my hands. He's saying, oh, God, give me more zeal to go at this. Okay, next one, Alan. Now, when I went into the house of Shammai, the son of whatever that person's name is, Delalala, son of, it looks like meatball, but Medebel, whatever that is, who was confined to his home, he said, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple. He's being deceived now, and I'll show you what's going on here. Let us close the doors of the temple, for they are coming to kill you. They're coming to kill you by night. They're sending assassins. You need to go hide in the safest place in the city. You need to go into the temple there and close the doors and defend yourself because they're coming to kill you. But I said, should such a man as I run away? Meaning, are you kidding me? I'm the one that needs to stay out front and lead the people, and you're telling me to go hide because I've got people attacking and assaulting me and threatening me and trying to kill me and lying to me. Are you kidding me? One of the things in leadership, and it's not easy, is you really are the one that has to go down with the ship. Unlike the guy in the Titanic. Well, did the Titanic captain go down with the ship? Okay. Okay, so look. This guy, by the way, is counsel. This guy is actually prophesying this to him. They're coming to kill you by night, but I said, should such a man as I run away, and what man such as I could go into the temple and live? Number one, he had no business going in there beyond a certain point because only the priest could. I will not go in. Next. And I understood and saw that God had not sent him. You better learn pretty quickly who God has given you as counsel and who he has not given you as counsel. But he had pronounced the prophecy against me because Tobiah, inside guy, Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. For this purpose he was hired, that I should be afraid and act in this way and sin, and so they could give me a bad name in order to taunt me. Remember Tobiah and Sanballat, oh my God, according to these things that they did and also the prophetess Noadiah, whatever her name is, and the rest of the prophets who wanted to make me afraid. There's more than one. When we took the church in Marshfield over to the poorest part of town, there was this one couple in particular, this very stand out very strongly, who kept coming to him and saying, you know this is over. You know this won't work. You know this has failed. You know this isn't a good idea. You know that, don't you? You know that this, And they were telling me how great they thought another preacher was. And they were telling me, we're looking at going over to the Baptist church here in town because there's no way this is going to work. Really? How many years ago was that? And Saul is still pastoring a church up there because we did that? Saul's a pastor because we did that? Please. I wish you could meet Keegan, his boy. Oh, gosh, what a man. Great kid. All because of that. But if I would have said, you're right, this isn't going to work. I just need to quit. I just need to go home. This isn't going to work. There's no way. I had somebody ask me, and this is fascinating to me, and we're done pretty much for now. I had somebody say to me, so, how many people you have at your church? My response was, 300. Are you impressed now? I called him out. It was a friend of mine. I'm like, are you impressed now? 300. Does that make you think, oh, you guys must be doing really well? If I would have said how many there really are of us, which is really and truly, if everything was flowing correctly, we're about 40 people. There's other people out there that watch us that can't come here because they're in other states. We're about 40 people. Do you know what the average size of a church is in the United States? Just the United States. The average size is 40 to 60 people. But you all have been conditioned by a brilliant enemy, and I have, that no, a successful church is one that's big. Really? Huh. Then why are there so many small ones? And if you remember what Abraham Lincoln said, God must like the common person because he made so many of them. We have work to do. It doesn't matter how many people we have. It doesn't matter how much money we have. It doesn't matter how smart we are. What matters, are you committed to the cause of preaching the gospel message of Christ and his word to the masses continually, no matter what your circumstances are? It's like that book Chris gave us on the butterfly effect. That one guy, they had no bullets left. And they go running down the hill, and the Confederates, oh, no, man, they're coming in. And they ran. There's no way they could have won, but they thought that these guys coming off the hill. You read it, Martin. Yeah. You ought to read the book. We are getting ready to do some great things. And by the way, I want you all to know this. I'm not going to tell you the number. If you want to know the numbers, you talk to Chris, because I don't touch the money. And I'm proud of that. This church has been so well taken care of, and God has been providing resources for us to do things consistently with no stress. That is because of people that are committed to the ministry. That is because there are people out there that see that there is work this church needs to do, and God has brilliantly made sure that we have what we need to do, what we need to do. The more we start to do it, the more he will provide for us resources to do the work. But if we're coming here simply to get ourselves and not invest in that kingdom, why would he give us any more? He won't. I'm pushing forward. I don't care if I have to go get a bunch of popsicle sticks and build a little popsicle wall. I'm at least going to build some. I'm going to do something. Everybody needs to do something. I don't care if it's nickels and dimes. If you say to me, Dan, we don't have money to give, I understand that, and I never pressure people to do that. But a penny, I'll take that. Simply because it's your heart that's the issue there. I want to do something. Here's one dime. Okay. Yay. Think about it. Just think about it. Or I'll help clean. I'll do something invested in this ministry for the right reason. I'm not asking you to do this for me. I'm not asking this to do this for you even though you'll be blessed by it. I'm asking you to do this because we are kingdom builders. You know, it's hard to think that. No, really, me? Yeah, you. You are a critical part of the building of the kingdom of Christ, period. And it is the goal, right? Right? You guys aren't pumped enough. I want excitement. I want to hear you go, yeah, Dan. I've given you ways to start developing your life. You can strategize your life in such a way that your enemies have very little effect on you. It takes discipline. It takes time. You will find, though, and this is the last thing I promise, you are your worst enemy. There you go. Eat on that one for a while. Let's pray ourselves out. Mother's Day, you know. Lord, thank you so much for your word. Thank you for the examples you've given us in men like Nehemiah. Lord, thank you that you have blessed us with families, with mothers and fathers and children and all of that, Lord. The fact that you call us your family is amazing. Lord, I pray that you would develop and establish great strategy and strength in the lives of everybody in here, that they would learn how to live effectively to accomplish the things in their life that you have called them to accomplish. Thank you for your investment in us, and take care of those that aren't here today. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, guys. Now I'm going to blow my nose. Oh, God. Do you feel like this, Mike? I need to move.